Alrighty, it's 11:30 in the morning. Figured that I would go ahead and take this opportunity since it's such a wild day to make a video live and record the session. So I had got short off the open because we had just massive tech selling, and it was up a ton of money. Um, and I was really looking for a trend because I said that if you looked at uh, the reports I put out, I said I wanted to go with a breakout of yesterday's low, which actually ended up failing. So I ended up straddling in the middle here, and just that held my P&L pretty decent for a while, and I wanted to release either side, so I went ahead and I released the puts, and I got some 55s. Where were we when we got somewhere around here? I got some 55s. Must have been 50 when we got above this little consolidation here. Got a little bit ahead of myself without really realizing like what time of day it was. I should have kind of waited because if we had a super wide initial balance, like if that would have broken out, the initial balance is here, right? So I kind of screwed that up. Then I went ahead and I left the position on and I added a put here, and that saved me about a grand of P&L. Went ahead and closed that. That worked well. Um, and then I just kind of sat long here, and my P&L has been kind of whipping. I did
According
lose
to
a
the facts,
decent amount of
Russia's
money
Dmitriev is to hold discussions with the
because
US
the vol
in
crushed about
Geneva
10
in the near
points from a
future.
40 to whatever. So I had a pretty rough morning, and I didn't really manage the straddle the greatest. I was kind of buying high and selling low, kind of screwed that up. It's a little difficult when you go from a trending market where you're like, you could buy high because you're trading momentum, right? Or you could sell low. So really, so yesterday, like a setup like this, where you have consolidation here and you break below it, that's a great place to go ahead and get short if you're scared to get short up here. So you could do that when there's momentum. When there's no momentum, then you want to be getting short up here or buying calls down here, right? Because these things will reverse. So just different trading style, and it's really important to acknowledge, like the regime that you're in, what can happen. So now what I'm seeing like there's a lot of positive gamma up here, uh, if you notice, right? So this is really causing an issue for us. There's a member of the chat, AHY. Me and him trade very similar. Talented gentleman. He pointed out that he thinks today's just going to be like a rotational day. I really got to say, I can't necessarily disagree with him um, at this point because if you look at the daily chart here, how this looks, I could see this just staying like this and just, a lot of path variance in between this and just kind of having something like that. I could totally see that. So that's the case. Unfortunately for me, my system has me classified as this is the making of a trend day. So I got super long, and it was just so whippy. I had to cut the size down. So I am still long. The position is green, and it looks like it's gonna work out. See, the main issue is that the mags were getting killed. See, now the mags are kind of flat, and you're seeing the rest of things right here. This is like the broader market. So this is all the tech sectors weighted here, this purple one, and then that's the rest of the rest of the sectors. This is just the mags. So when the mags are down, you're really going to have a lot of friction. What we need for them is to just kind of be flat like they are, right? And then that gives us a little bit of room to move. But when these turn back down, you're going to see this go, right with it. So that's something that you just can't do anything about. If we take a look at the VIX, right, there was big dealer shorts here, trader long calls, and also at 22. So we were sandwiched in there for a while. And it looks like we're kind of making our way outside of that. I know we got to give this a little bit of room here. But the VIX could really just kind of ruin everybody's party because, so here's the spread, the backwardation spread. We're positive right now. So the front month is lower than the second month. You see that's just flip-flopping around. So it's not really safe. And, the trend day classification, I think it's kind of getting to the point where, like, if we don't see this thing like getting a move, I'm gonna go ahead and change tactics. And what I mean by that is, instead of sitting long, right, and trying to ride a trend, then I'll start selling high, covering, selling high, covering, right, buying dips or something, depending on how this trends, because I'm going to trade with the trend, right. So um, that's the scoop right now. What did I want to point out? Check this out, right? So did it close? Where'd you go? There was a big 69.50 put spread. Let me announce that. All right. But we still have short puts here. So it's like, when I wrote about like a possible Vanna rally in the morning notes, and then I flagged like the potential for like the VIX term structure and everything to be a bottom, the expected move. So we were saying, like, today could be a bottom. I was writing that last night, and I had to get short because we broke out of yesterday's low. So you go with the breakout, right? But that failed. We also had plenty of time overnight to trade lower. So you have all this opportunity to do that, and the market didn't take it, right? Instead, it did this. So I got to sit long right now, and I don't really, it's not my favorite thing to do. I just feel like, I know this is going to sound a little funny, right? Everybody wants the market to go up. Everybody needs the market to go up, right? So why would it go up? Of course it goes up. It has a higher drift, right? But being that everybody always wants it to go up, there's a lot of professional traders that trade short because there's great short opportunities. So, and I do lean to the short side. If you looked at my statement, they are full of
Voice
puts.
news disconnected.
Even in, trending markets, though, I'm not going to sit here shorting a trending market. And the shorts, this paid off great, but you see the shorts are paying less and less, and we're getting this pace of market change where you're getting these sharp rallies, drip low, sharp rally, drip low. So my position is green. I'm only at a half size. I got super long this morning. And honestly, I feel kind of foolish that I got out of it. And somebody asked me, "Hey, like, could you post something with like your mistakes?" Like, you know what I mean? And I do make mistakes. I don't really make mistakes often though, because I do a lot of work. I have regime classification systems. I trade correlation, and so my system works. So it's not that I don't make mistakes or read things wrong, but when you have a system that works, right, it's going to work, and that's what that's all about. So it's not many days where things don't work out, but from time to time, they do get confusing, right? So this was scary. It's always scary for me to be long these types of situations. I could sit in a short and hold it firm. I don't know why the longs just, I don't know. I just don't really like them. That is just a personal thing. Maybe I need to see a psychiatrist. I really don't know what that's all about, right? But so I'm sitting long right now, and I got to make up some losses from the morning. So we got about a 60-point range on the day. And because of the realized volatility regime that I flagged, I'm expecting more like a 100-point day. That's what I really was expecting. That the 5-day ATR is 100. I'm thinking, at least like 80 points. So we got 60 points worth of range so far. I'm seeing some trader puts kind of load at the money, but it's super light, so it's not really anything that you could stand on. And now if you look, right, you're seeing the mags roll over, right? And now watch what happens here. Right, and then here's the broader sectors. So if this really starts to roll over, I'll get whacked pretty good. But nonetheless, right? Look, we're above yesterday's settlement, right? We're above initial balance. There's these white dotted lines. They get set automatically at 10:30. This is the linear regression path, right? We're following that mean, right? So there is no trade in the middle, but you see this is a path that was respected yesterday, and you see there's some friction here. So this actually is a great place to throw a hedge on as this plays out. Excellent place. I'm watching both front month VIX futures right here. I'm watching the VIX futures spread right here. I'm keeping my eye on the vol of vol, which is still elevated. And like I said, if these mags don't at least stay flat, if we revisit this low, we will indeed stay within this range, and we do have a pretty wide initial balance. It's kind of on the borderline of being almost too big, but we broke out of it. So the speculation part of that is solved, right? So um, we got higher lows, right? We're looking to make a higher high. And when we make that higher high, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and check my momentum indicator, RSI. I know a lot of people talk shit about RSI. It's probably one of the top 3, top 5 things that I look at because it's a momentum indicator and it signals exhaustion in either direction. So when we make this high, right, I want to see if my momentum indicator confirms or I want to see if it doesn't, right? So if we get a higher high, but the momentum indicator makes a lower high, that's not going to be good. We do have VIX making a low of day right now, right? So that's kind of confirming that this is safe thus far. So that's how this whole thing is going. Let's take a look at the mags, right? So Tesla looks like it's back green. What's this puppy? Amazon, Microsoft got killed this morning. It's coming back. I am short Nvidia. Made a ton of money on those. They were 50 cents. They went to like $3. So that was a grand slam. I'm still in them. They expire today. And so here we go, right? So trend day classification system. Now let's go ahead and look at our 2-minute RSI. So here's something that's interesting. It could be confusing. Longs are printing. So here's something that could be confusing, right? Look, 1, 2, right? We're getting lower here, right? We're a little bit lower. So that could mean one of two things. That could mean that this move isn't done. It could also be a continuation pattern because sometimes you need a couple of these divergence highs to really settle in. Or it could literally mean that this thing is going to fade right now. So you got to get used to reading it, and it's how could I call it? It's objective, meaning it's in the eye of the beholder once you read it. I could write some solid rules on it, but you're still going to have to learn how to read it, sit through these things, get it wrong a couple of times, and then say, oh, I remember this happened last time and it cost me $1,000, so I'm not going to do that again. And that's how you learn lessons, right? So we're looking at Nvidia, right? Here's the opening range on initial balance on Nvidia, right? 87 down to 82. All right, I was in some 85s, so those printed. And now I'm probably not up too much money on those. I was up a decent amount. So that P&L kind of got smacked. But that's fine because what is that? That is a hedge against my long, right? And I'm long some VIX calls. Light. Just light. Nothing crazy. Okay, and the trend day system, day type classification, looks like it's good so far. It looks like it's good so far. To anybody that's in my Discord where the reports are being released, I have a buddy of mine that I mentor, and he had asked me for my journals that I write in the AM and the afternoon. And he liked them so much, he was like, man, like you gotta share this stuff. And so I said, all right. So I sent them to a couple of buddies, and I went ahead and I opened up the Discord. It's not a call out chat. I'm not in there calling out trades. I am in Spot Gamma Discord. It is a place to view my PM reports, a place to view my AM reports. I called out the 2% move yesterday. I flagged that realized volatility regime with the greatest bucket of moves greater than 2%. We got 2.17% move down yesterday. And the VIX did 25%, and we were at 3-day return bucket on the VIX that had the greatest bucket of moves greater than 20%. So Um, and those moves could be up or down. You got to understand that variance is how much things move up or down. Okay, so a has the greatest bucket of 2% moves up or down. Then you could look at the distribution and say, well, more of them are down, and then you say, oh wow, this is a risky regime, right? Uh, so I'm going to make a video on that classification system. The reason why I just explained all that to you guys is because it's just a work in progress. And what it really is I'm just basically making my journals and the stuff that I trade off of public. I'm basically just taking the stuff that I've been doing every day for a long time. This looks like a good place to short right here, actually, but I don't want to be shorting a trend day if that's what's going to happen. See, we got a little roll. We got a little roll. These pullbacks are going to be really, really wicked, and we could totally just trade unchanged on the day. So there's no guarantee. We got a big Vanna rally, right? Because fixed strike vol is coming in a lot. And let's go ahead and look at the volatility skew here. Right, so volatility skew. This came down from this morning, and this is 31 DTE, right? So, not the biggest. When I'm focused primarily on the 0 DTE tenor. A lot of guys say it's noisy, but I trade fast and intraday and tactically. So for me, it works. I need fast signals. So we went from a 40 IV. We are now at 28 at the money. Okay, so even sitting in this long. I don't really have the account depth to be putting on short option trades that could make close as much as my long vol trades do. So I don't participate in those. If I had a $10 million account or something like that, something insane where I could put some size on these short vol trades that would actually make me money that would be significant. Then I would probably be in some sort of a put spread, because these puts are still super expensive. Like the 6800s are still $2, $70 down. So in my experiences, they want to sell those, right? And we saw this morning that traders had expressed the risk premia extraction, right, from the event risk with puts this morning. So that really favored, a Vanna rally. If they would have been in there writing calls all morning, I would have been super, super, super bearish. I have to go with the breakout of balance because that's what you do, right? I have zero reason to. This is a 2-minute chart, right? I have a reason to try to buy down here, right? But this is really catching a falling knife. Perhaps on a 1-minute chart, this might have been a little bit better. There are a couple of reasons to buy here. You got the put wall. We are outside of the RSI 30 band. There, that is a valid purchase. But I'll show it to you a little bit better here, how it really looked, because there's some gentlemen that really like to trade this. So here's a 1-minute. Look at that at the put wall, right? Except we don't have a divergence low. So for me, that's not a signal. If this would have made a higher low, that could have been a signal for me to enter. This was kind of risky. But I was big short this morning. And I was just going to sit in it because that's really what I wanted to do. And that didn't work out. So I held that all through here. I got chewed pretty good on that. I initiated a straddle, kind of got chewed on that, and then I went ahead and released the put. Once I saw that we were doing this, these big greens and not so much of this anymore, and that kind of changed. Like if you notice, like it's like wide, 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 right? One more wide, and then look, skinny, 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 skinny. A lot of people see this like skinny, 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 and you think this needs to like dump. It doesn't. And that, a lot of guys want to short this all the time, and they get caught short in these trend days. This is bullish drift. It's 11:52. That's all this is right now. It's the same thing every day. Here goes Nvidia. So you bet your bottom dollar. And so I wrote in the X post notes yesterday how my system really revolves around correlation and trading big tech correlation. If this makes a low on the day, it's going to rain on our parade big time. because NVIDIA is the heaviest weighted stock in the index. Okay, let's take a look at it. I mean, it's been stuck in this little range here. This thing could really, 150. This is either distribution or accumulation, whichever way you want to look at it. It's a pattern. So which way does it go? All you could do is just go with the trade, right? Go with the breakout. So I got short at the top of the risk range, and I flagged that trade also because that's what you do in a bracketed market, right? And of course, there was a lot of sentiment around that trade, and I got them for 50 cents. And they traded through the money, and I made a bunch of bucks, and that's cool. And so my NVIDIA short is on, right? And I'm long here, right? So I'm hedged, right? If this ends up dumping and takes this out, I do have a bit of a P&L pad. They can actually go counter, right? That could happen, where it just so happens that they wiggle lower, but this thing kind of wiggles higher. It can happen, but these downturns will affect SPX. So I use spot gamma for realized volatility suppressing levels that are positive gamma, because positive gamma is a realized volatility suppressant, right? So I use spot gamma for levels. I use spot gamma to get a look at participant positioning, customer positioning. I want to see what they're expressing trades with, right? I want to see how they're doing things for the day, because that matters big time. The fact that they had puts on today and not calls to extract the risk premia from the event was a big sign that we were going to move higher. There was a big 69.50 put spread in the market, huge, all the way up here. I mean, think about that. So you got 69.30. You got a ton of single prints. You got the expected move up here. We are in a regime that is breaking expected moves. That is the regime that we're in. Can this be the day that it changes? Sure, it sure could. But I don't have that information yet. So what do? I trade with it. Let's go ahead and check our intraday variance regime and see what we got, shall we? Give me one moment to load this up here. Pull up the good old. All right. You're going to go ahead and you're going to CD the folder that you want Anaconda to look through. So that's where my script is. And then you're going to post the file name for the script. Okay. Make sure there's no little funny dashes or anything, because I keep all my scripts right here, so when I need to grab them, they're ready to go. Enter. This is going to go ahead and give us intraday variance. So I use the standard realized volatility calculations that everybody uses to do 5-day RV and 10-day RV and all that good stuff. Then I have a proprietary method that I use to calculate the risk of realized volatility expansion. Okay, I call it VRP. I probably will rename it because, quite frankly, it is not true VRP, but it is derived from a similar calculation. This is using variance swap calculations to do intraday variance readings. So this is huge, right? We didn't have this. If you look at the reports that I've been doing, we haven't had intraday variance this large. So it's pretty funny because you would think, right, this is a Vanna rally, and you would say like, hey, like vol is coming in, right? The VIX is getting killed. At the money is vol is coming in, but look at that intraday variance. So realized volatility is actually screaming, right? So there are many shades of volatility, and it's important to really understand all of them, because when they talk about vol control and CTA guys, this is what they're looking at, right? So they'll sell if the market is volatile. They don't want their P&L swish-swashing all over the place. They want a nice, smooth, low volatility trend. That low vol drift higher. That's what they're in the game for, okay? So that's what they want to see. Now I'm long, and using my day type classification system, using my high of day, low of day studies, I'm going to be looking to sit in this thing probably till maybe 12:30 or so, because I have seen these reverse. I like to hold it around 1 o'clock. Um, I did that last time, and the day kind of failed. So I am on guard. I'm watching the mags. And so a lot of this stuff could be a self-fulfilling prophecy where, like, who came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Is the index dragging the mags, or is the mags dragging the index? Because they're two free-floating things, right? So while they are correlated, if traders come in and buy these and sell these, right, you're going to see a bit of variance in what's happening between the two of them. Um, and so that being said, that's a trade opportunity. All right. Let's see where we're at now. All right. So we fixed about half the day's scratches. And I just told everybody that I was still sitting in these longs. 3 time frame stochastics. Not looking too good. So I'm guarding this. And I'm not really seeing any ads at the money. Pardon me if I get a little quiet, because I do have positions on, and I am just like anybody else. I got to manage them, right? So here's where we are, waltzing up into this positive gamma here. Okay, these 85s, we're making our way through, and what I suspect is going to happen is that guys are going to want to short this, and they're going to add puts, and so hopefully that should kind of even these out a little right here, right, and take some of that positive gamma away when we get some negative gamma added to this. So they sum that, right, to get this. This is the sum of both positions. So just to give you a look at what this looks like, right? These are all 92%. They're not impenetrable. Market does like to kind of cling to these areas. It's like a little, I think of it like it's like a little cozy, warm place for the market to be. Positive gamma. That's how I think of positive gamma. It's a realized volatility suppressant. So it's like a safe place for the market to go and hide from the variance, if you will. So this is how it's going. Let's go ahead and take a look at the spot gamma vol dashboard right now. All right, so here's the VIX. Wow. All right. Term structure. Okay, so the front months are no longer higher than the second months. If you notice right here, the spread is 32. This was negative. So we were in backwardation. Right now it's 32. Okay, so they had every chance to blow these guys out of the water today, and they didn't. All right. Not to say that it doesn't happen. It's still February. We still got all types of risk on the table, but the VVIX is coming down nicely. Right? Here's the VVIX. Look at this drift. That's what that is. This is drift. And so we're just sitting along this drift right now. And we're just hanging out. And I'm going to punish myself for releasing my... I bought it a little bit too high. I mean, the 55, quite frankly, I bought it too high. I paid, I think, 18 for it. I sold it at 12. Ouchie, ouchie. And it's like 25 right now. I mean, so that I bought that in the wrong place. I really should have added here to the calls. But sometimes when you don't know for sure, right, you don't need to full port. You could just put a position on, right? And if I don't go green on the day today, right? Let's say I only make back 2/3 of what I lost this morning. Well, that's all right because I'm still super up big from yesterday and the other days, right? And so there's nothing scary about that. You just gotta you just gotta own it sometimes. You just gotta say, hey, this is my position and I'm in it. And don't get scared out of it. Don't bottom ticket. Don't sell the bottom because you got scared. If you feel like you're right and you're in the position. And I know this is for an advanced trader with verified systems that they trade that give signals. If you are a new trader listening to this, that is an advanced concept, okay? So you need to manage your risk accordingly, right? If you have a statistically sound system that is flagging something, right? And you want to stick with that because you have math behind it. Of course, it could be scary, but if you trust your system, then you want to sit with that system. And so my system flagged a trend day, and so far, this is exactly what we have. All right, a lot of path variance. Not one candle took out the prior candle's low. Okay, that is a trend day. We're getting above this consolidation. So a lot of these guys, they put these positions structurally. And so could we fail here? Yeah, for sure. Nvidia is turning around. I don't really care if this Nvidia position doesn't work out because I'm super long here, right? So that's fine. Not super long, but I got a decent position on. I was really really long this morning. It is difficult to do this, right? It's hard to sit long a trend day. It's a lot easier to sit short, for me at least. It just moves differently, So it's kind of like your personality type. What are you comfortable with, right? So I just do what I'm comfortable with. I would love to start doing put spreads and everything like that. I'm not gonna stomach much more, than like $1,000 worth of risk. So that's about two put spreads that I could put on, or one 10 point, right? So what do I stand to make from that? Not quite as much as I would, if I actively manage my long vol positions. Now, if you are trading short gamma, short volatility positions, you can't just actively manage them and close them because how many times do we breach the expected move and then come back through? That's like a quant system, right? That's a system for guys that have math and they say, hey, this percent of times this should happen, and if it doesn't happen, I risked $1,000. And so when people say, "Oh, the put seller guys," and listen, I've said this many times until I realized it. Oh, the put sellers must be sweating. No, they're not. They're not sweating an inch because they have a defined risk, right? They put on 5,000 contracts, they risk $5, and they say, "Okay, my system says that I'm right 90% of the time, and when I lose $1,000," and that's what they do, right? And they run it. The martingale thing, I mean, that's a whole nother guy, but people that trade that responsibly, that's what they do. So um, actively managing the put spreads, I don't recommend it. It's just not how you're supposed to do it. Could you do it? Yeah, sure. There's a lot of great traders that I talk to in the Spot Game at Discord. There is a ton of talent in the world, and I'm plenty sure that there are people out there that can do that. I don't quite agree with doing that, so I don't do it. The longs are working. Okay. I am about 60% wiped my losses from the morning, and there's going to be a ton of afternoon fun. So we'll probably see some drift, and I'm hoping that these guys start adding some puts up here. So we can kind of get that positive gamma again, right? See him add some puts here, get this positive gamma sorted out, right? Get the dealer hedging function to push us higher. We do have the vol trigger not too far away, and so that's how I'm working it. Look at the drift in the mags. because this is what happens during the middle of the day. So if you're losing money, right, I always recommend traders take their statement, stick it in TraderView, stick it in TraderVate, right? Look at your trades and bucket them. Take all your winning trades, put them in one folder. Take all your losing trades, put them in another folder. Then go through them. All the winning trades that you did X, put them in the X folder. All the winning trades that you did Y, put them in the Y folder. Do the same thing with your losses, right? You now have two setups. You have an X setup and you have a Y setup. Those are your winning trades that you now identified, right? Isolated, and those are the trades that you take in your A plus setups. You also have X and Y losses that you now get to go analyze those, right? And what do you get to do? You get to turn those into winning trades. Because if you're taking the same trade over and over again and it's not working, well, then guess what? You need to change that, right? If you're buying a put position all the time and that's not working out, well, maybe you need to sell that put, right? Maybe you could turn that that losing bucket into a winning strategy. Hint, hint. Maybe I did that. I did do it. I actually did do that. So I'm gonna do a video on that. It's in the mix, and it's gonna be a super teasy title: how to take a losing trader to winning trader in one day type of title. But it really is true, because if you have a large amount of losing trades, what you have is a ton of data that you get to work with. Okay, look, so the RSI indicator is not even, look, we're getting high. So we're not really getting these divergence highs here, right? We could see this. We could see this dump right here, but now this is bullish. Nvidia puts are still times 3. They were times about 6. But I'm just going to let those go ahead and settle out because they're in the money. And I'm just sitting long. And the 130, I want to talk about the 130 time, because I called out the 8-shaped day yesterday, and it wasn't some freakish call out. It was based on my day type classification system, the same one that called the trend day. And so the way that works is, if we are rallying into the afternoon on a trend day, right? That's a true trend day. That's something that doesn't reverse in the afternoon and you get like this little half a doji day. That's like a true trend day. And so yesterday we never rallied. So I said to myself, I was like, whoa. I was like, we have a true trend day. That's what this looks like, an actual true trend day. So now here's 12 o'clock. Let's see what the day looks like. We got a level here. What are these guys doing on trace? Man, these guys on trace are not really doing much. They're not really doing much. They're scared. They don't want to come out and play. I flagged this chart this morning and I put it in the chat. So here's 2 standard deviations of the linear regression path for the last, 60 days, right? These things stick. Failing 1 standard deviation constantly, respecting 2 standard deviations, right? So we're still within this decent market, right? So wanted to go ahead and get long that also, right? You want to you want to go with a breakout below that, because a move greater than 2 standard deviations means something changed, right? So we want to acknowledge that if that's the case. I'm going to go ahead and add a 75 put here.
Order filled.
And that's just going to pad my P&L if we have a pullback. I don't want to be ruining my long by adding a whole bunch of puts. So I just want to place this, and I'm watching the VIX here.
Order filled.
All right, that's unnecessary. All right. And that's what I'm hoping everybody else does is add puts, right? Like that, so that we could go higher. Guilty as charged. All right, it's hard to, and this is the psychology part of the notes that I put out is trading trader psychology. So you're long, and you're saying to yourself, you're looking in the chat, and you're seeing what all these guys are saying, and they're like, oh, I think it's going to turn over. I think I'm going to short it. I think I'm going to short it. So don't you think that there's probably a lot of other traders thinking the same thing, right? So does that mean that we're going to see puts add at the money because the whole chat is talking about doing it? It sounds highly likely to me. Sounds like a good guess to me. So that's how you trade that psychology and kind of could front run the potential for position adds, right? But I really want to point something out, right? This is not your typical like reversal day, right? We had chances to reverse and we didn't, right? Here's the tick, the nicey tick for the day. Look at this. We had one that closed below zero, right? So even though this was a big, scary, thing for a lot of guys or whatever, the truth is that it really wasn't much of a move. I mean, we went from 7,000 to 6,800. Not even, it's like, you know, 200 points of swing. We're not used to that. We're used to, baby moves and stuff like that. So it could have been a little crazy, but let's really step back and let's like look at where we really are in life. Like let's really come to terms with this. I mean, like here's the November low, you know. So what I was really looking for was a lower low from here. I wanted to see that lower low today. And it didn't happen. Does it mean that it's not going to happen? I agree with Brent. He wrote in the founder's note that he believes like any longs today are a day trade. I pretty much agree with him there. I do think that we could potentially like gap in higher maybe or something like that. There's also the potential for Iran stuff to go crazy, right? So I'm gonna leave the VIX calls on for the weekend. It's a small position, just a couple, nothing crazy. I didn't full port the whole account. Um, and let's see how this plays out, because man, this is some real bullish drift here, and we're sitting in this realized volatility suppressing area now. Let's make sure this is updating. It is updating. Because I can't believe my eyes that. Alright, so we're getting some guys buying puts up here at the money. We are above, we're trying to get above this gamma. Look how this is acting. Nestled inside of this little zone right here. We are. Right? And look at how this price has changed. So don't be losing a ton of money trying to trade these wiggles. I always say don't trade the wiggles, trade the move, right? We want to trade the move. At the money, IV is now a 25, down from 40. So if you look at the notes that I wrote, right, and you should have had a great day. Should have had a really great day. I flagged yesterday that the SPX moved out of the super risky bucket and moved into the second most super risky bucket. It was a small change, but it was still a big change because the number of moves greater than 2%, right, are less in that bucket. So that's something that's significant, you know. We're looking at the front month futures here. I really was expecting a little bit more path variance up here on the highs. It's 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is a turning point. Let's go ahead and pull that study up. Let's take a look at 12 o'clock. Here's your 12. 12:30. 12:10, which is where we are in this area. So look at this is a area where highs could be made. This is a turning point, right, for the afternoon. Here's another one. 1:30, 2 o'clock. This is where I like to get out. This is a risky area. So we're getting hit a little bit right now. But it's important to understand that it's a trend day, okay? And understand what a trend day is, right? And trust what you know. And what do we know? It's a trend day. Trying to trade counter trend on a trend day is going to be rough. It's going to be rough, right? So I don't really recommend it. I don't really recommend it. Could this thing just come down and trade unchanged today? It is possible. Okay, it is possible. But these are the rules. So let's see where we are now. Here's the consolidation area from yesterday, right? Let's get this drawn nicely. I like yellow. So when I tell guys and I say, don't short the trend day, it's a trend day. Again, we identified that today is a trend day. What are the characteristics of a trend day, right? Trend days trend higher, right? Let's take a look on a 30-minute. P&L is doing great, right? So here we have a breakout from here would be wonderful. Could we just turn around and do this? Anything is possible, but look at NVIDIA now, turning around. Google, turning around. Amazon, making it happen. So the mags were holding us down. And if you notice, right, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Information technology. This saved us this morning because everything else was mixy, right? And what do we got? Couple laggers. What's happening? They're making their way. So I'm sitting long because it's a trend day. And so if anybody wants to understand more about this stuff, so again, I trade correlation, right? I trade spot gamma levels. The sprinkle of sauce on top is a tad bit of old school trader logic and auction theory, okay? If you are not an expert on auction theory, I highly suggest that you become one. It is not very hard. There's a great book called Markets in Profile by James Dalton. James Dalton is like 85 now or something like that. He's still trading. I think he's just stopped doing lives. I was in his last live and actually got a chance to ask the guy a question, which is like talking to Michael Jordan for me. I mean, that was like the best day of my life. It was so cool. But that book is going to help you understand that the market has day types. Look at this day. It's a day type. This is a trend day. If we look at what trend days look like, here's a trend day, right? here's a trend day, right? Here's a trend day. So when you identify, here's a trend day, right? When you identify a trend day, here's a trend day, right? A little bit of path variance in the morning, right? But then we trend, here's a trend day, right? So when you can identify a trend day early, right, in the morning, they just do what trend days do, right? And here is, I mean, how many examples have I just shown you? This is what trend days do, guys. You got to trust it. This is what trend days do. These are trend days. Here we go. This is trend days. Okay? Here's one that's a little bit squirrely, but the morning is a little different, and that's important. I guarantee you there was some news. This might be FOMC or something like that. Oh, OPEX. Ha. Told you. I knew it was something. Just because why? The path looks odd, right? So what my system does is it takes these days, it classifies them and recognizes them early, and then I go ahead and let everybody know in the morning, right, when you need to know what we're going to have. And a lot of times I can identify that, before the initial balance even sets. I could just tell by the way the thing is going, and the system works well. And so I go ahead and share that with my colleagues. We're at RSI 50. Right? So anybody that was short in these things is not getting paid. And so I'm not getting involved. Here's Apple. I do think that we have the chance to sell off in the afternoon. I totally think that. Here's 12:30, right? What do we know about 12:30? Look at this. So you expect a bump in the road. Why? Here we go. Here's your 12:30 lows, right? Here's your 1:30 lows, right? And then here we are. Who shorted that? Not me. Why? It's a trend day. Plain and simple. My father used to say this to me over and over and over again, and he would come out of the pit and be like, "Did you get long?" And I'd be like, "No." He'd be like, "It's a trend day." I'd be like, "Huh?" So listen, I know. Believe me, I know. It is not as easy as it sounds, right? But you guys got me. I do my best to, to make these call outs. They're not, I think I may, I think I might, they're all statistically backed. So, yep, that's, there's your 12 o'clock. Now, can this whole thing turn back around? I mean, NVIDIA never broke the initial balance, right? On days where you have this wide initial balance like that, oh, excuse me, there's the initial balance. So we got back inside of it. There's a breach to the bottom. So typically, if we look at NVIDIA, I want to go ahead and pull up this. So here's NVIDIA. Here's a 12 o'clock low. It's a little bit hard to read because typically these mags just rip in the morning, and they make their extremity in the morning. So it's like, okay, if you made a 9:30 low, then I could trust that you're just going to flatline for the day, right? If you didn't, I still got 9:40 a couple times in the morning, but then the occurrences are just so much less. And this is over 11 years of data that I'm taking that from. So this is before 0 DTE, and then we have studies that are just from last year, like the newest study that I just posted. That's just last year's 2025. Okay, right here. And those are also in the Discord. Can't put any comments or talk in the things. It's just to go and take a look, read the reports, get the data, and continue your morning, right? And I try to get all that stuff out super early so you could kind of just look at it all. And again, that's just my process that I've been doing every day for I can't even tell you how long, for a really long time. It may seem like a lot of work. I don't know if people understand how much work really goes into this, but it's not just a day job. It's a ton of work that goes into this stuff. So that's what's going on. All right, let's go back to our 30-minute. Let's take a peek at the 10-minute. All right, so really want to see this get above this. We do have all that positive gamma up there, right? We do have a lot of positive gamma up there. So I'm going to rely on my correlation stuff. I'm going to rely on the VIX. VIX is out of backwardation. The spread is positive 30. Here's the 2 front months, right? Not seeing anything threatening. What's the trade right now? How many traders do you think want to short this right now? How many traders want to get long volatility right now from the VIX? Or how many traders want to, and I'm talking about the VIX, how many traders want to get long the VIX, right now? Do they want to buy it, or do they want to sell it, right? Do they want to sell this thing right now, right? They think it's spiked. So I'm betting that that's what these guys are trying to do. Quite frankly, I don't think that the downside is over. I got to be honest with you. And I use the word think because that's exactly what I'm saying, I think. And so I don't have any quantifiable data that's telling me that this move is not over or anything like that. I just think that, we have some more action. That's what I think. And so at the money vol is now at 24. So we're getting a good crush, and these guys are getting paid. And I always say, think about what the big money is doing. Like, what's the asymmetric trade for big money, right? What do they want to do? Once the volatility gets crushed enough and options get cheap, sure, we'll see some long vol trades. We'll definitely see some action. We'll see vols expand. So that's why I keep an eye on IV, because implied volatility is going to have a range for the day also. So a lot of times, we'll just hit like 30 or something. Like yesterday, we couldn't get lower than 30, and every time we hit 30, we would just pop, right? So, it's cool to keep an eye on that. Today, we don't really seem to have a floor, right? But I just kind of have some research involved in basically historically monitoring, intraday volatility, and so I have an understanding of where that belongs, right? We could always look at the straddle, and here's something really cool about the straddle, right? So look at this straddle, right? And say, okay, look, what time was this? 12:10. What time is this? 12:14ish. Okay, so it's a 5-minute, 2-minute. So here's 12:10 right here. Here's 12:10. So here's like a bit of resistance right here. Okay, look at the support right here. So we came back down to this support level, right? And we rallied. Look at this support level. So here's another really awesome way to have a leading indicator that you could rely on, because people want leading indicators, right? And now my P&L is the biggest that it was all day, and I didn't short at 12 o'clock. I didn't try to short the trend day because I'm acknowledging the day type. It is a trend day. Trend days typically reverse around 1:30, right? 2 o'clock. That is the reversal time. Why? Volatility and volume are U-shaped. They're shaped like a U, the letter U. In the morning, right? Then it lulls in the afternoon. So when that volatility starts picking up in the afternoon, especially if these vols get real cheap, right? Implied vol started at a 40, and now it's a 24.4 at the money, okay? So when that implied vol turns around and gets super cheap, and the puts are super cheap, and everything is super cheap, then that means that these guys extracted all the premium. So what do they have to do? They got to cover that. Doesn't make sense to hold it to the close. Why would you hold it to the close if you're short volatility and you made 90% of the money? So the Ambrose study proves that, right? That they come in and they get out of those in the afternoon. Okay, so they're coming in the morning, putting a position on. They're leaving this. This is theta burn hour, right? So we're not seeing a lot of path variance in the middle of the day because it's a trend day. There are other days where you got a ton of path variance in the middle of the day. That's one of the characteristics of downside trend days, right? You had a nice range right here. We never picked up from it, and then we traded lower. Go ahead and look at 10-10. Identical day. Can you identify that? Sure. It was a really slow drip. Traders continue to try to buy. We just keep going lower, right? So the next time you see that, say to yourself, wait a second, this is a trend day down. I remember what happens on these days. If you can understand, let's say that there's only 4 types of days, okay? When you identify what type of day it is, well, now the rules apply for that day. And that's what type of day it is, okay? In the afternoon, like I said, 1:30, 2 o'clock, trend days tend to roll over. So we're getting there. I mean, it's 12:30. This is a bumpy time. Volatility is at 24.4 still. So I'm keeping an eye on that, right? Look, remember the straddle? It got up here, resistance, and came back down, right? So how cool did that work? So again, this is a line on close chart because I just want to see where it closes. I don't want to see a bunch of tails and spikes and stuff. I just want to see, same thing with the tick chart. I just want to know what's going on. Starting to see stocks not really following through anymore. If this starts getting crummy, things like that into the afternoon, cool, because I said I wanted to hold till around like 1 o'clock, right? Because that's when trend days kind of reverse. And if we do have a true trend day where we rally in the afternoon, well, I'll manage my risk accordingly then, right? So that's how we do it. That's how it's done, folks. And I just want to really stress the importance of, it takes a lot of the stress out of the day when you can identify the type of day that it is and then trust it. Because, like I said, let's just say there's only 4 types of days, okay? A trend day up, a trend day down, that's 2, right? A doji day where we go nowhere, right? And then a normal day. So let's say there's 4 types of days, right? Trend day up, trend day down, a doji day where we go nowhere, and then a normal day. What does a normal day consist of? Just normal stuff, right? Anything could kind of happen, right? We could sell here. It may rotate back down. It may be a normal day that goes higher, a normal day that goes lower, but it's just a normal day. This is not normal. This is a trend day. These don't happen all the time, but when they do happen, we got to identify it, right? And we got to trade it accordingly. Trend day PDF applies. If you look at the trend day PDF, right, every single rule applied. All aboard, 11:30. There we go, right? That's how it goes, folks, every time. So the fact that we breached, really quick just before I leave because we're at an hour, the fact that we breached the initial balance high, I have some research that shows that if we breach the initial balance high, there's a very low chance that we breach the initial balance low, right? So that's great information. So can you write puts all the way down here with a 5% chance that it gets taken out? Sure, because it's about a 95% chance that we don't hit both initial balance high and low. That is huge, absolutely huge. Again, that's going to be in the Discord. It is not my study that was passed to me when I entered the Spot Gamma Discord. I have no idea who did it, but it is valid. And there were some great guys that have been in here and through these Spot Gamma doors, folks. And so that's just something that somebody left behind for us. And so I use it. And yeah, so it's getting close to 1 o'clock. And I'm going to go ahead and end this here at an hour. Trend day, folks. Don't short the trend day. Recognize what kind of day it is. stay in it to win it. Okay, you don't got to hold till the close unless you can identify that the afternoon variance is going to be, the path is going to be higher. I don't know that that's going to be the case. Let's take a look again. Here's our intraday variance monitor. So we're at a 15 and a 12. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, so we're pretty much moving right along the same way. 5-minute variance picked up a little bit, but we're pretty much just moving along the same old way that we have been. Okay, so unless I see that jump, and that's going to jump from a move. This is not a forward reading. This takes candles or open, high, low, close data. The problem with 5-day close to close RV is it just doesn't tell the intraday story. So you can have like a really small 5-day RV, like, you know, when it's a 5, and we're like, how the heck is it a 5? Well, it's close to close reading. It's not accounting for the high low close that happens in between that. And so that's what this intraday variance calculation does. Okay, this gives us a realized volatility reading for intraday path. Okay. And then this is the at the money straddle. So it's telling me the expected move right now, 24 points. Okay, that's the actual move that we've had since this thing has been on. And yeah, it's real cool. Look at the IV, right, coming in. So we're just seeing more of a Vanna rally, right? And as long as those vols keep getting close, keep getting smaller, we had a little bit of we were stuck at like 23.4, but now we're at 22.9 on my option chain, which is going to be different from this. Everything is different. Whatever you use is fine. If you use TOS, just stick with TOS, because you just need to know what their calculation is, or if you use your own or you use whatever, it doesn't matter. You just want to use the same thing all the time. That's it. You just want to use the same thing all the time because you want to refer to the same thing all the time. So I'm keeping a look on my option chain implied vol right now, and I'm seeing it if it could get, you know, below 23. Can it get below 22? And as that's happening, I am trading a 85 delta now. My call is in the money. I bought it down here. So I'm looking at the money. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end this right now. It's about an hour, but I just figured it was a good day to go ahead and talk about day types. And, you know, everybody wants to hold their winners for longer, right, and cut your losses shorter. So understanding the type of day it is, understanding the volatility regime that you're in, right? We could still breach this expected move because that's the realized volatility regime that we're in currently, right? So even though the expected move was really big, it was like 60-something points last night. This morning at the open it was about 50, closer to 60, 55. I'm pretty sure I clocked it at 9 o'clock. Straddle opened at 55 also. So $68.88. $68.88. Okay. Alrighty, folks. I hope everybody enjoyed this. I'm going to go get a glass of water and get ready to manage the afternoon. All right. Remember, if this thing continues in the afternoon and we don't get a 1 o'clock rollover, then we'll probably close on the highs. Can it happen? Sure. Will it happen? Maybe. What could we do? Use the data that we have to make judgment calls. Okay. It's all we could do. We are statistically driven. So we're seeing volatility pick up here in the VIX. Okay. Not so hot. All right. Look how it's been chilling. It's picking up a bit. Alrighty. So we're just going to chill. We're going to wait till around 1 o'clock. And here's your 1250. right? 1240, not so much, which is where we are right now. 1250, look at 2. 2 o'clock could be the end of it, folks, right? 140, we made it past this area. These get to be bumps in the road, but they can be also the high of the day, right? Alrighty, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Have a good one.